My name is Tim Willard. I grew up in Silver Spring. I now live in Alexandria, Virginia.
Okay, we're rolling.
There were some other big local groups here at the Wheaton Youth Center that I don't remember hearing about in any of the things written about this. A group called Crank. They participated in, I know the first, what was the place in Georgetown where they had the reunion a few years ago? Well, it doesn't matter, but they were regulars on the circuit. There was also a group called Flavor. You ever heard of them? Yeah.
Only in conjunction with this.
Okay, and yeah, but they played here regularly. But I think the biggest deal was Grin. I remember when Grin opened for Dr. John, that Nils, at the end of his set, said, "Hey, you all ought to really stick around. Dr. John is really terrific. It's going to be a great show." And about 3/4 of the audience left. So.
But you stuck around.
Yep. Well, yeah. But Grin was a big deal.
How was Dr. John?
Interesting. Now, as a young guy, I wasn't. It was kind of outside of my comfort zone. Let's put it that way. But great. I'm sure. It's a great show.
Who else did you see here that people might recognize?
Spirit. I believe that they played here on a couple of occasions. I saw them the first time they played here, which was not long after. Well, I'm guessing it would be late spring or early summer of '69. I've Got a Line on You had come out. As a matter of fact, that was the song they opened with. And it was a full house, but not jammed to get in. Whereas I heard they played again, and at that one, yeah, you had to get in, and then there was a line around the block to get in for the second show.
And did they serve alcohol at these shows?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I'm sure that you weren't allowed to have cigarettes, alcohol, and probably not have sex on the floor or something like that. But other than that, as I was saying to you earlier, I just don't recall the presence of adults, which probably means that the adults were doing their job, kind of letting the event be what it was. So it was anything but a heavy-handed presence. But it was, as I recall, the sound was fairly decent too. That it was not a bad sound system, which was not always the case with concerts in those days.
What about, do you remember any wild youth behavior, anything particular going on?
To be honest, I'm sure I was enough of a music nerd that there I was just paying attention to the band. Who knows what was going on in the parking lots or out in the cars or whatever, but I wasn't aware of that. It was just such a good music venue, and that really seemed to be what people came out there for, that it really was that rather than a place to hang out. That was one good thing about what, I just remember the name of the club in Georgetown. That was Emergency, which I'm sure has come up during this. And a lot of the same groups played there, although they never got as big national groups as here. Now the question that I've had in the years since I've had time to think about it is, how did people know about these concerts? Now I've seen some posters in there, but I just remember showing up. I don't remember, maybe they were mentioned on the radio, but certainly the famous show, the Led Zeppelin show. I was very aware of Led Zeppelin, liked them. If I'd known about that, I certainly would have been here.
I think they were called the New Yardbirds at the time.
Ah, you see, well, but even so, I'd been a Yardbirds fan, so
you just didn't know that they were playing?
Didn't know it was here. And other shows. I have a friend who went to shows by the Stooges and by a group called Taste. And he said at each of those, maybe 20 or 30 people there. He was, even at that point, stunned by how few people turned out. And again, he doesn't remember how he even knew about them.
And what other shows did you actually see here that you can think of? How many times do you think you were here about?
I was here many times, but almost always seeing local groups. I saw Grin a number of times, Crank a number of times, Flavor, other groups that I'm not remembering the names of. But Spirit, the show with Dr. John were probably the two biggest that I saw. And yeah, there are others, I'm sure, even in my youthful state, I would have been happy to have seen, but just didn't know they were taking place.
It's interesting. All right, thank you.
Okay, hey, thanks again.